My girlfriend rejected my proposal, so I ended our relationship and kicked her out of the apartment. Hi everyone, I'm Itten, 30-year-old male, and I guess you could say I've been going through a lot lately. So here's the thing. A few weeks ago, I proposed to my girlfriend of 4 years, Brooke, 27-year-old female, and it didn't go as planned. Actually, it went completely wrong. And honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened. Let me start with some context. Brooke and I met through mutual friends at a small barbecue. We hit it off right from the start. Same sense of humor, similar life goals, and she was easy to talk to. Over the years, we built this life together. We talked about everything: marriage, kids, our dream house. Brooke used to get excited about wedding stuff. Even when we weren't actively planning anything, she'd send me links to engagement rings she liked or point out wedding venues when we drove past them. It wasn't constant or over the top, but it was clear that she wanted that life with me, or so I thought. Fast forward to this year, our 4th anniversary. I thought, okay, it's time to make it official. I started planning the proposal months in advance because I wanted it to be special, not just for her, but for both of us. I'm not great at these romantic things, so I got help from my friends, Kevin and James, who have been my best friends since college and were thrilled about the whole thing. We planned everything down to the last detail. I booked this resort that Brooke had mentioned wanting to visit for a long time. It was a bit pricey, but I thought it was worth it. Kevin and James helped me pick out the ring, a classic, simple style because Brooke isn't into flashy things. And we organized this private dinner at the resort. Candles, flowers, the whole 9 yards. This is where it gets a bit complicated. I didn't just plan a private moment. Brooke's friends, Chloe and Anna, were also in on it. They were supposed to show up after the proposal with drinks and be part of the celebration. My friends would be there too. It wasn't a huge crowd, but enough to make it feel special. The day of the proposal, everything seemed perfect. Brooke was in a good mood. We spent the day relaxing, and I was nervous but excited. When it was time for dinner, I got ready and tried to stay calm. Brooke looked incredible, and I couldn't stop thinking about how lucky I was. Then we got to the setup spot. Candles, flowers, soft music playing in the background. I gave a little speech about how much she meant to me, and then I got down on one knee. I held up the ring and asked her if she would marry me. And that's when it all went wrong. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no either. She just froze for what felt like hours. Finally, she said, "Itten, I need more time." It was like the whole atmosphere just deflated. I couldn't even process what she was saying. All our friends were there, and I could feel them staring at us. I felt embarrassed, confused, and honestly, pretty hurt. Brooke started apologizing immediately, saying that she wasn't saying no, just that she wasn't ready yet and that she needed more time. But at that point, I wasn't really listening. I was just trying to keep my composure and not fall apart in front of everyone. Kevin and James tried to lighten things up, cracking jokes to ease the tension, but it didn't help. Chloe and Anna looked as uncomfortable as I felt. Brooke kept apologizing, and I kept nodding, pretending everything was fine, but inside, I was a mess. We left dinner early. The car ride back to the hotel was completely silent. I was staring out the window, replaying the whole scene in my head while Brooke sat next to me, probably doing the same thing. I couldn't even look at her. When we got back to the room, she tried to explain herself again. She said she needed more time to think, that it wasn't about me, and that she just wasn't in the right headspace to make a big decision like marriage. But none of it made sense to me. We had talked about this for years. She knew I was serious about her, and she always acted like she was serious about me too. I asked her directly, "Do you want to marry me?" She said yes, but that she wasn't ready to say yes at that moment. Honestly, that answer felt like a slap in the face. You either want to marry someone or you don't, right? It shouldn't be that complicated. We barely spoke for the rest of the trip. I felt embarrassed, not just for myself, but for getting all our friends involved. It was supposed to be this beautiful, life-changing moment, and instead, it felt like a complete disaster. When we got home, things didn't get any better. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Was it me? Did I rush things? Did I miss something that indicated she wasn't ready? I started replaying our relationship in my head, analyzing every conversation, every moment, looking for something I might have missed. Brooke, on the other hand, acted like everything was fine. She'd bring me coffee in the morning, ask me how my day was, and try to make small talk, but it all felt strange, like we were pretending nothing had happened. I didn't tell anyone about the proposal right away. Not my parents, not my coworkers, no one. The only people who knew were the ones who had been there, and even then, I didn't want to talk about it. I felt like an idiot for thinking everything was perfect when it clearly wasn't. But I did reach out to my sister, Jenna. She's always been the brave one in the family, the type of person who tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I figured if anyone could give me some perspective, it would be her. Little did I know, she was about to make things even more confusing. When I called Jenna, I wasn't even sure how to explain what had happened. It felt embarrassing to admit it, like I'd somehow failed. But she could tell something was wrong as soon as I said, "Hey, got a minute?" She didn't waste any time and cut straight to the chase. "What's wrong?" So I told her everything. The proposal, Brooke's reaction, the silence in the car afterward, and how awkward everything had been since we got back. By the time I was finished, I was pacing back and forth in my apartment, my heart pounding like it had all just happened again. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and I was bracing myself for Jenna to tell me I was overreacting. Instead, she said, "Itten, I don't want to freak you out, but what Brooke did, that's a red flag." I stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" She sighed. "Look, when a woman hesitates to accept a proposal, it's usually not just nerves. There's something else going on. Either she's not sure about you, or there's someone else in the picture." My stomach dropped. Someone else? Seriously? I couldn't believe it. How could she be thinking about someone else after being together for 4 years and having me propose to her? "I'm not saying she's definitely cheating on you or anything," Jenna said quickly, "but think about it. You guys have been together for 4 years, Itten. For years. She knew this was coming. It's not like you sprung it on her. And if she's not ready now, what's she waiting for?" Her words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I didn't want to believe that Brooke could be hiding something like that from me, but I couldn't ignore how logical Jenna's explanation seemed. Brooke and I had always been solid, or at least I thought we were, but now I was questioning everything. "Maybe I rushed it," I said, trying to defend Brooke, or maybe myself. "Maybe she really just needs time to process it." Come on," Jenna said, her voice firm. "Do you really believe that? You've been dropping hints for months. You organized a whole trip just to propose. If she wasn't ready, she should have told you before you got down on one knee in front of all those people." Jenna was right. Brooke had always been upfront with me about what she wanted, or at least she used to be. Lately, though, things had felt different. I started telling Jenna about the little things that had been bothering me, how Brooke had been working late more often, how she'd started going out with her friends more, how her phone was always on silent. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it because I trusted her, but now, with Jenna's words in my mind, it all seemed suspicious. "Itten, I hate to say this, but it sounds like classic girl code," Jenna said. "Girl code?" I asked, confused. "It's when a girl hesitates because she's keeping her options open," she explained. "She's not ready to commit to you because she's not sure you're the only one she wants." I didn't know what to say. The idea of Brooke keeping her options open was driving me crazy. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my best friend, my partner, the person I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. The thought of her hiding something like that from me made me sick, but at the same time, I couldn't just accuse her of something without proof. What if Jenna was wrong? What if Brooke really was just overwhelmed or scared? "I don't know, Jenna," I said finally. "It feels wrong to jump to conclusions." "Okay, but has she been acting different lately?" Jenna asked. I thought about the past few months, the late nights, the weekends out, the phone always on silent. Now it all seemed so obvious, but at the time, I hadn't given it much thought. I trust Brooke, I really do. I love her. I didn't want to believe that she would be capable of hurting me like that. Maybe I admitted, but what am I supposed to do? Go through her phone? Spy on her? That seems crazy. No, Jenna said firmly. That's not who you are, and it's not who you want to be. But you need to pay attention, Itten. If there's something going on, something will slip eventually. I didn't want to hear it. I wanted Jenna to tell me I was overthinking things, that Brooke just needed time, and that everything would be okay. But deep down, I knew she was right. Something wasn't right, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. After hanging up, I sat on the couch staring at the ring I'd planned to give Brooke. It was still in its little velvet box, untouched since that night at the resort. I couldn't believe I actually thought everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. What made things worse was how Brooke started observing me, as if trying to read my mood or decipher what I was thinking. Whenever we were in the same room, I could feel her eyes on me. Sometimes she'd ask if I was okay, but not in a casual way. It felt loaded, like she was looking for a way to reassure herself. At first, I didn't respond much. I was too frustrated and confused to talk about it, but the more she tried to gauge how I was feeling, the angrier I got. It wasn't just that she was asking, it was the way she was doing it, like she already knew she'd hurt me and was looking for a way to make herself feel better about it. She'd drop these little, almost apologetic comments like, "You've been quiet lately," or, "I feel like we haven't talked much." Once she even said, "I hate that things feel weird between us." I didn't know how to respond to that. Things didn't feel weird. They were weird. And the fact that she kept tiptoeing around it instead of addressing it directly made me feel worse. It was like she wanted me to fix something she'd broken. The next few days were brutal. Brooke acted like nothing had happened, like everything was fine. But I couldn't stop analyzing every little thing she said or did. When she went out with her friends, I wondered if she was really with them. When she came home late from work, I wondered if she'd really been at the office. I hated feeling like this. Brooke had always been so good to me, so supportive and loving. But now, every time I looked at her, I saw doubt. The worst part was not knowing. Not knowing if Jenna was right, not knowing if Brooke was hiding something, not knowing if I could ever trust her again. I feel trapped, like I'm living in limbo where nothing makes sense. I love Brooke, but I can't shake the feeling that something is wrong, aside from that horrible incident. And the more time passes, the more it eats away at me. Tell me, what would you guys do if you were in my shoes? Update 1. Thanks, everyone, for your comments. I didn't expect this to blow up like this. Here's what's been going on lately. I didn't know things were only going to get more complicated since my last post. A few days after my conversation with Jenna, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. Girl code sounded like a made-up thing, but Jenna isn't the type to throw ideas around without basis, and the way she'd explained it stuck in my head like glue. I started overanalyzing everything Brooke had done in the past few months. I wasn't proud of it, but I couldn't turn it off. On the other hand, Brooke was acting like nothing had changed. She was still kind, still affectionate in that casual way we'd always had with each other, but now, there was this invisible wall between us. We didn't talk about the proposal anymore, or the trip, and I wasn't about to bring it up. Instead, I started noticing more things. She was glued to her phone more than usual, and whenever I casually glanced at it, she'd lock the screen or turn it face down. It didn't seem right. I began paying attention to how she hesitated before answering certain questions, how she'd shorten her explanations, almost like she was being rushed, when I asked how her day was. But even then, I couldn't be sure. I kept telling myself there were other possible explanations. Maybe she was embarrassed about the proposal, maybe she was overwhelmed and didn't know how to handle it, or maybe I was just being paranoid because of what Jenna had planted in my head. Then Jenna changed things. She sent me a text. I was at work, pretending to focus on emails, but actually just staring at my screen. Replaying the last few weeks in my head, the notification popped up. We need to talk about Brooke. I heard something. My stomach sank. Jenna wasn't the dramatic type, and she didn't send vague texts, so I knew this wasn't going to be good. I stepped out of the office and called her immediately. She didn't waste time. I was talking to one of my friends, and Brooke's name came up. Apparently, she's been spending a lot of time with some guy from work. A lot. I didn't say anything at first. My mind was racing, trying to connect pieces that weren't even there 5 seconds ago. What does that even mean? I asked finally. Jenna explained that her friend, who worked in a different department at Brooke's company, had mentioned seeing Brooke having lunch with this guy more than a few times. Nothing suspicious at first glance, but Jenna's friend thought it was strange because apparently they seemed very close. I didn't know what to do with that information. Having lunch with a coworker didn't mean anything, right? People have lunch with coworkers all the time. But Jenna's friend wasn't just anyone. She was reliable, honest. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a coincidence. That night I tried to act normal around Brooke. But I found it impossible. Every time her phone buzzed, every time she mentioned work, I found myself wondering if she was talking about him, whoever he was. The next day she mentioned a late meeting, and instead of nodding like I usually did, I felt a knot in my stomach. After Brooke went to sleep, I lay awake thinking about everything Jenna had told me. If I confronted Brooke, what exactly was I going to say? Hey, I heard from my sister's friend that you've been hanging out with some guy from work. Anything you want to tell me. It sounded ridiculous, like I was grasping at straws. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore it. The next day, I decided to call Jenna again. I needed more context, more details, something concrete to go on. When I asked her about it, she hesitated at first, like she didn't want to make things worse. But eventually she admitted that her friend had seen Brooke and the guy at a coffee shop after work once. And it wasn't just any coffee shop. It was one that Brooke and I used to go to all the time when we first started dating. That hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't proof of anything, but it felt intentional, like a small piece of our life together had been used for something else, something that didn't include me. I started questioning every decision I'd made in the past few weeks. Should I have been paying more attention? Should I have been asking more questions? Maybe Jenna's girl code theory wasn't just a random idea. Maybe it was the explanation I didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. By the weekend, I felt like I was losing it. Brooke had been distant all week, but not in an obvious way. She still smiled at me, still asked how my day was, but there was this disconnect, like she was going through the motions mechanically. Jenna texted me again on Sunday. You need to talk to her. If she's hiding something, she's not going to admit it unless you push. But I didn't know how to push without crossing a line. I didn't want to be the guy who accused his girlfriend of something without evidence. At the same time, I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I'm in a tough spot, but I feel like I'm going to make a decision soon. I'll keep you guys posted. Update 2. Hey guys. First of all, thanks for all the support and advice on my last post. I've spent the last few days trying to process everything, considering your perspectives, and I decided to confront Brooke like most of you suggested. But let me tell you what happened before that. After a few days since Jenna sent me that message, I couldn't take it anymore. The tension in the apartment was suffocating, and I wasn't going to keep quiet anymore. Brooke was going about her routines like everything was fine, as if her rejection of my proposal wasn't the giant red flag it clearly was. I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't just stand there as if I was okay with being treated as a backup option while she figured out her life. I'd spent weeks replaying that moment in my head, me kneeling, offering my heart, and her looking at me as if I was asking her for a favor instead of pledging a future together. It wasn't just about the hesitation, it was about what it meant. She was still unsure about me even after 4 years, after everything we'd built. How many years does it take to make sure I'm the one? It's ridiculous. And now she was distant, quiet, acting like she had no idea what the problem was. That night after dinner, I sat across from her at the table. She was scrolling through her phone as always, completely checked out. I wasn't going to wait for the right moment. This was the moment. We need to talk, I said, leaning forward. She looked up, surprised. What's wrong? Are you seeing someone else? I asked directly. Her jaw dropped. She slowly lowered her phone, like she was trying to buy time. What are you talking about? Why would you even ask me that? Because nothing between us feels right lately, I said, my tone sharp. You've been distant for weeks. You shut me down after the proposal, and now I feel like you're waiting for something better or someone better. And if that's what's going on, I need to know. Her face hardened. Do you really think I would cheat on you? Maybe not outright, I said, crossing my arms. But don't act like this coworker of yours hasn't come up. Jenna told me about the coffee shop. You didn't tell me you were spending time with him. Why is that? Brooke exhaled sharply, like she was trying to hold it together. Because it's not a big deal. We're just working on a project together. That's it. Then why hide it? I asked, leaning forward. Why keep it a secret if it's so innocent? I wasn't hiding it, she snapped back. I just didn't think I needed to tell you every little detail of my work life. That's not the point, Brooke, I said, my voice raising. The point is you've been acting like I'm the only one struggling with this relationship, and I'm sick of it. If this guy's no big deal, fine. But you didn't say yes to my proposal. You asked for more time. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? How it felt to stand there thinking I'd planned the perfect moment, only to have you tell me you're not ready. I wasn't ready, she said, her voice defensive. And I told you, it's not because of someone else. It's because I needed to think. Think about what? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're thinking about whether you even want to be with me. And if that's the case, just say it. Don't keep me hanging while you decide your life. I'm not keeping you hanging, she said. I've been trying to sort things out in my head, but you're making up something that's not there. Don't gaslight me, I said, my voice cold. You've been pulling away from me for weeks. And if it's not because of this guy, then what is it? I'm tired of the guessing games. Brooke stood up, crossing her arms. You want to know why I hesitated? Fine. I hesitated because marriage is a huge step, it's permanent, and I wasn't sure. I was ready to make that commitment, not for you, not for anyone else, but for me. Her words impacted me, but not the way she probably thought they would. I stood up, too, meeting her gaze. So what you're saying is, after 4 years, you're still not sure about me. That's not what I'm saying, she said quickly. I love you, Itten. I really do, but I wasn't ready for that moment. Well, I said, my tone sharp. And I thought we were on the same page. I wouldn't have asked if I thought for a second you didn't feel the same way. It only took me months to be certain about you, but I gave you more time so you'd feel ready. But now I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning whether you actually see a future with me or if I'm just the guy you're settling for while you decide your options. Brooke's face fell, but I wasn't going to back down. You've made me feel like I'm not enough, I continued. Like I'm just here to fill a void until you decide what you really want. And I can't live like this, Brooke. I deserve better. I never wanted to make you feel that way, she said quietly. But you did, I said. And now I have to decide if I can stay in this relationship knowing that I'm not your first choice. Her eyes widened slightly, and for the first time, I saw real fear in them. Itten, you are my choice, she said. I've just been confused. I cut her off. Yeah, I get it. But here's the thing. I'm not confused. I know what I want. I want someone who is sure about me, someone who doesn't need time to decide if I'm worth the commitment. And if you can't be that person, then I don't know what we're doing here. Brooke didn't answer. She just stood there, her expression a mixture of guilt and frustration. The silence between us stretched, heavy and unrelenting. Finally, I stepped back. I'm going to give you some time to think, I said. But I'm not going to wait forever. If you can't give me a real answer soon, an answer that tells me you're all in, then this is over. I walked out of the room, towards the bedroom, to clear my head. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I'd taken control of the situation. Whether Brooke stayed or not, I wasn't going to keep feeling like a second option. Whatever was going to happen next, it was going to be on my terms. Ending the update. Hey, I figured I'd give you guys an update since most of you are asking what I did. Well, honestly, I'm not proud of how things played out, but at the same time, I don't regret saying what I needed to say. For weeks, maybe months, I had been bottling up all this frustration and confusion. The proposal, the hesitation, her distance afterward, and now this shadow of doubt hanging over us. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Asking her directly about the coworker had been inevitable. What bothered me the most wasn't even her ambiguous answer about him, but her overall hesitation about us, about marriage, about everything. I wasn't asking her to marry me tomorrow. I just needed to know we were going in the same direction. Her claim of not being ready felt like not being ready for me. After sitting there for a while, I decided I needed to clear my mind. I didn't want to call Jenna. I needed to hear from someone else. So I texted Kevin, since he'd been there for the proposal and knew what had happened. Hey, can we talk? Need some advice. Kevin was one of those friends who didn't sugarcoat things, and that was exactly what I needed at that moment. When he called back a few minutes later, I stepped out onto the balcony so I wouldn't wake Brooke, though I doubted she was sleeping after our fight. I told him everything. Brooke's hesitation after the proposal, her recent distance, and the conversation we'd just had. Kevin let me vent without interrupting, which was exactly what I needed. When I finally finished, he sighed. Itten, I'm going to be honest with you. You're doing the right thing by standing up for yourself. If she's not sure about you after 4 years, that's a problem. I understand marriage is a big step, but she should at least want to take that step with you. The fact that she's wavering isn't something you can just ignore. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, I know, but it's hard. I don't want to just throw away everything we've built, you know. I get it, he said. But you also don't want to spend years with someone who isn't fully committed. You deserve better than that. I ended the call and walked back into the living room. Brooke was still sitting on the couch, clutching a blanket like it was her shield against whatever was coming. Her phone still lay untouched on the table, the TV light flickering across her face. She looked up when I came in, her eyes flitting nervously towards me. For weeks, I'd been holding back, giving her space, trying to understand her hesitation, but after everything, it was clear I couldn't keep doing that. We need to talk, I said. She nodded, her hands twisting the edge of the blanket. I know, she said softly. I sat down, trying to be reasonable. Brooke, I began, I've been patient. I've given you time, trying to understand what's going on between us. But I've reached my limit. You've been distant since the proposal. I've tried to be understanding, I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt, but it feels like you're not even trying anymore. She didn't say anything, her eyes glued to the blanket in her lap. I need to know, I continued, my voice tight. Are you in this or not? Because I can't keep waking up every day wondering if you're just waiting for a better option. It's not like that, she said quickly, looking at me. Then what is it like, Brooke? I shot back. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot like you're using me while you decide your life, and I can't do that anymore. I won't. Itten, she said, I don't know how to say this. Just say it. I said, my tone sharp. Whatever it is, just say it. For God's sake, I'm done with the games. So she blurted it out. I've been seeing someone, she admitted, her words barely audible. I froze for a moment. I thought I'd misheard, but then the weight of her words hit me like a sledgehammer. What? I said. She looked at me, her eyes filled with guilt and tears. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said quickly. It just did, and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. At that point, I lost it. There was no way I could take this calmly. You didn't want to hurt me? I repeated, my voice rising. So you decided to go behind my back and play me until I got down on one knee and proposed, only to have you tell me you're not sure. Are you seriously listening to yourself right now, Brooke? I'm not with him, she said desperately. I'm not sure about him either. That's the thing, I don't know what I want, Itten. You don't know what you want? I said. standing up abruptly. After 4 years, after everything we've built together, you don't know what you want? Do you have any idea how pathetic that sounds? She flinched, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to hold back anymore. I was ready to spend my life with you, I continued, my voice shaking with anger. I was ready to build a future with you, and while I was planning our next steps, you were out there unsure about someone else? Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for me? I didn't want it to go this far, she said, tears streaming down her face now. I didn't want any of this to happen. But it did, I said, cutting her off. You let it happen, and then you sat here day after day, pretending everything was fine while you tore this relationship apart behind my back. I'm sorry, she said, her voice cracking. You're sorry, I said bitterly. Do you think that changes anything? Do you think that fixes the fact that you've been lying to me? Lying to yourself? She didn't answer. She just sat there, trembling. I can't do this anymore, I said, my tone colder now. You're not sure about him. Fine. But the fact that you were even in a position to make that comparison tells me everything I need to know about where we stand. Itten, please, she said, standing up now, reaching for me. We can work through this. I'll stop seeing him. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. No, Brooke, I said firmly, taking a step back. You don't get to fix this. You don't get to sit here and decide now, after all of this, that I'm the one you want. Her face crumbled, but I didn't let it affect me. Get out of my apartment, I said, my voice like steel. Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. Itten, please, don't do this. You did this, I said, pointing at her. You made this decision the moment you decided I wasn't enough for you. You made this decision when you let someone else into our relationship. So don't stand here and act like I'm the bad guy. Pack your things and leave. She hesitated, but when she saw the resolve in my face, she slowly nodded. Without another word, she turned and walked towards the bedroom. I stood there, listening as she packed her things, my heart heavy but resolute. When she finally came out the door, she stopped, looking at me one last time. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't answer. I just closed the door behind her, locking it and leaning against it as the weight of everything settled on me. The apartment was quiet now, but for the first time in weeks, the silence felt like peace. That night, she moved out of my life. I called my sister Jenna just to reassure her that it wasn't about the coworker we'd been discussing. It was some other guy. Writing this out now seems pathetic and horrible anyway. I told her everything, how Brooke admitted to seeing someone else, but claimed it wasn't serious, and how I couldn't stay in a relationship with someone who treated me like an option. Jenna was shocked at first, but she was also supportive. You did the right thing. You deserve better. A few days later, I got a call from Brooke's sister, Ella. She wanted to know what had happened. I explained everything, the hesitation at the proposal, her confession, and my decision to end things. To my surprise, he said, I'm sorry, Itten. You didn't deserve that. Brooke's been lost lately, and I hope she figures it out, but you made the right choice. Since then, I've been focusing on myself. I sold that damn engagement ring. It felt like holding onto a bad memory of my life, so there was no point in keeping it. The money is in savings now, a reminder to invest in my future instead of clinging to the past. It hasn't been easy. Some days, I replay everything in my head, wondering if I could have done something different, but deep down, I know this wasn't about me. Brooke's hesitation and decisions were hers, not a reflection of my worth. I'm not ready to start dating again yet, but that's okay for now. I'm taking time to heal and rebuild.